Welcome to user training for the Cloud DPE Development Studio. This is Gene D'Angelo. For these training sessions, I am working on a client PC located in Southeast Florida, and I am signed on to a small server located in Plano, Texas. This is the last of 3 parts. It continues the review of seed fundamentals and joins. Now let's add another process to our seed. This is going to be somewhat unrelated to what we're doing here, but we'll just keep in the same seed anyway, just for demo purposes. And let's call this one sum NPI by year. Okay. And I'm going to go over to my directory and bring in the HCPCS utilization table. I do not want to add all columns. From that table, I'm going to bring in the NPI, the year, and the build and the paid amounts, and the line service count. Okay. Now I'm going to sequence the NPI. I'm also going to sequence the year, and going to now produce subtotals. Here, I'm sorry, first I have to do the union before I can access subtotals. Now I can access the subtotal. And I can either say line service count here, which I will in this case. And here I can do a subtotal, and I could say just build amount, or the other option is just putting an I in. An I simply means that whatever column you're on, that's the column you're going to be subtotaling. And because you could build an extra field down here and access this column and produce a subtotal separate from that as well. But if you're on the same work field as that column, then you can use an I. Here I'm going to do again. I'm just going to say I. And put an output. And run this process. So that's going to bring in, though, that again, this is that 18 million plus rows table. It takes about 6.3 seconds to do this. So now it's giving us, for each NPI, it's giving us a separate row for each year. And if we wanted to, if it makes more sense now to, let's close this, and let's say we want on the output, we want to move the year to the second position and run it again. Now you'll notice that the year still in the input shows in the last position. So what you do on the output does not necessarily match what's on the input as far as field positions and field contents. You can exclude fields from going out and the output as well. Okay, so perhaps now what we really want to do is put out separate tables based on whether it's 2012 or 2013. So let's add a filter here to say that we only want to have year equal to 2012 going out in this first table. And let's change the name, rename it with _1. And now let's add another output, and it's going to give you a warning, because in most cases you only need one output, but it's telling you already have one output. You want to go ahead and do that? And I'm going to say yes. And now I'm going to make this one 3_2, and I'm going to put a filter that says that the year is equal to 2013. And now if I run this process, I'll get 2 tables out, and instead of one with just the records for 2012 and one with just the records for 2013. So here is the records for 2013, and notice it only opened up the last table that I have on the seed, and I'm running in the seed, and that's partly because of in fact, let's look at that very quickly. If we look at our preferences, you have a choice of what output table you want to, how many output tables you want out. You can say last only. You can say last all except the ones that are going out to the temp directory. So anything that doesn't go out to the temp directory, it puts out. You can say everything. You can say every output from every process needs to be displayed immediately, or you can say none. So I usually use last only. But when I did that, it also only put out the second of the two tables coming out of this process. If I want to go back and look at the first table, I can simply go to the temp directory. I'm going to have to refresh it now, and then double click here on this table, and now we see the records for 2012. So here's 2013 and 2012. Also notice that the year is in a different position, because when I added that second table, it took the position, the second output table, it took the input position of the year that came from the input, and you have to make a change to that if you want to move it to the other, to move it up. So here you can see this went back to assume what I was going to put out was what I was bringing in, and in the same position, in the same complement of fields. And so if I want to, it's moved here, but if I want to move it here, I have to explicitly move it to the second position. And now that table will be put out with the year in the second position. Okay, and I'm just going to run this just to show you that. So now perhaps what I want to do from here is to do some comparisons. Maybe to see which providers are in one year but not in the other, and so on. This will just be to demo some of the other joins that we have. And so I'm going to take a new process, and I'm going to just call it demo joins. So these are special other joins, the ones we haven't covered yet. I'm going to add seed output. If I do that, I have one, and we can see the different process. We have 3 prior processes now with the tables coming out of each one. I'm going to bring in this one, and I'm going to bring in also the second one. And from the first one, I'm going to bring in the NPI and perhaps the paid amount. And from this, and I'm going to call this the paid 2012. Was that what we did? Now, see, I need to go back, and I'm bringing that in from the first one, from 3_1, to go back and look at 3_1, see what my filter is. It was 3012. Yes, I am right. And now I want from the second table, I'm going to bring in the NPI again over the same position as from the first table. I'm going to bring in the paid amount. I notice if I tried to do this before I changed this name, it wouldn't allow me, because I would have had a duplicate field name. But now that I've changed it, it allows me to bring that amount, that field in to a separate row in the seed. And I'm going to change this to 2013. I'm going to sequence this, and I'm going to say now do an intersection. So I want to see which NPIs had paid amounts both in 2012 and in 2013. Add an output and run this process. And there we are. Now we found about 121,000 NPIs that had money paid to them both in 2012 and in 2013. So for maybe what I really want to know is maybe what providers that got paid in 2012 that didn't get paid in 2013. So here I can simply change this to a difference join and run this, and that's going to give me only a list of those providers, about 58,000 of them, that got paid in 2012 but not in 2013. So that's what the difference join means. It means that it wants all of the keys matching that did not match from the first table to be output. One did not match to keys in the second table to be output. If I change this to a not intersection join, and I run this. Now this is going to tell me, in general, what NPIs had payments in one year but not the other. Of course, some of those are the same ones we just noticed that were paid in 2012 but not in 2013. But here's also the ones that were paid in 2013 but not in 2012. So that is the non-intersect join. So these three joins come in handy sometimes for some very simple operations when you're trying to determine what's in one table but not in another for one reason or another. Okay. One final thing I want to show you with these joins is let's go back to the difference join. And if you remember, if we ran that, we just got those providers that were paid, those NPIs that were paid in 2012 but not in 2013. If we wanted the reverse, if we wanted just those paid in 2013 but not in 2012, one very simple way to do that is to take this table and move it here. Now they're reversed, and since difference operations is based on what's in file 1 but not in file 2, we simply run this seed now, and we should get those NPIs that were paid in 2013 but not in 2012. So we can simply do that by just we can actually move the table from one position to another, which sometimes changes the way the join operates. And that's, I think, all I want to show you for now about joins. One final step will be to save the seed that we've developed. Up here we just hit the save icon, and that will allow us to save the seed in whatever directory we want it in. Just put it in the main directory here and hit save. Even though you name the seed, when you open it up, it's not saved until you actually hit the save icon. After it's saved the first time, in future times you just have to hit it as you develop the seed, add more processes, and then it'll save it without asking you where you want to save it or what name you want to give it. And this concludes my review of the fundamentals of building seeds in DPE Development Studio.